It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 2 things real quick. 1, this song now makes me think of
Jordan Clarkson?
Despicable Me.
Oh.
And that is what they do now, the hook in kids' movies, is to sprinkle in a little nostalgia for the parents. But then it kind of takes over, which is annoying.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about the Minions,
Okay.
which is hilarious. And 2, the Jenny Garth story was nothing. She doesn't even give the juicy details on why their relationship. She just said some friends are for seasons and reasons or something stupid.
Nobody knows who that is. But good news, Taylor Frankie Paul did win a bitter legal battle over her ex-boyfriend, Dakota. She's got a restraining order.
Don't they both?
Probably.
Poor kids.
Yeah, poor kids.
Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Sean, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, NBA play-in tournament starts tonight.
We'll see how this run goes. We've got the Heat taking on the Hornets. Hornets were kind of this great story all year, and maybe they can get past this play-in tournament stretch. They're going to get absolutely washed by the Detroit Pistons in the first round, and that kind of conversation of how fun this was is going to disappear very quickly. And then the night game is the Trailblazers versus the Suns. Trailblazers, if they make the playoffs, lose their draft pick. If they miss the playoffs, they keep their draft pick. And I'm curious if that will have any motivation on their
All
decisions.
4 of these teams should tank. Have we seen availability? All 4 of these teams should be fielding G League squads.
I don't know if the Suns own their own pick. My suspicion is the Suns don't.
Well, according to their bozo owner, they don't.
They don't need the
they
picks.
They don't dabble in such things. Is this Adam Silver's Super Bowl tonight?
It's his crown jewel. It's certainly his crowning achievement.
This and the night in the fall in Vegas, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're really his times to shine.
Yeah.
So I hope he's there in Charlotte or Phoenix.
He better be front and center.
I would think so. I would guess the Hornets have been playing better. I would think they win. And then, why would the Blazers want to win? Suns probably win tonight, too.
Blazers have been weirdly feisty all season long. Credit them for that. I like that teams, the Kings, you can make fun of them, and I make fun of them all the time. I like that they won whatever it was, 8 of 19 down the stretch or whatever it was, and it wasn't good for them, and now they're tied with the Jazz in the standings, and we're talking about, again, fractions of a percentage point, and they don't have any chance of losing their pick, so why not? But I don't mind teams that just say, we're going to go play. We're just going to go out there and try and win.
No, I like it, too. I do. It gives me nostalgia. But why is Portland able to do that? Because they're a rudderless ship.
Yeah.
Their coach got arrested off the sidelines before the season. What, in the preseason? The team has been sold. Nobody knows who's going to be there or not be there. If there were competent leadership at the moment that knew what they were doing, Portland would be instructed to lose this game like they would have been instructed to lose for the last 2 months. But, if you want to look at a cute, plucky storyline.
But this is the whole problem with the NBA, which is that's really cool for Portland that they decided to go 42-40 this year.
But they're going nowhere.
And it doesn't help them in the slightest.
Nope.
In fact, it's going to hurt them now. Now, don't trade your draft picks or whatever, and that's part of it. And we've got Dame coming back next year. We'll see how that goes. I'm not super confident that that's going to be anything positive. But
I point that out because that's the flaw.
Yeah, that's the flaw of the system.
That's the flaw.
Is that there's no teams more punished than everybody right now in the play-in tournament.
By doing well, by playing hard, by punching above their weight. Portland is doing itself a disservice.
And by the way, this is not particularly new. It's more exacerbated today and exaggerated than it ever has been. But I was young. You might have been working in the business at the time. The Jazz go 42-40, ironically the exact same record as the Portland Trailblazers in the first non-Carl John year, and they miss out on a chance to go draft Dwight Howard. Well, where would the Jazz have been better? Now, they got Carlos Boozer, they got Darren Williams a couple years later. That ended up working out okay. But you would have been better off having Dwight Howard and tanking if you could have gotten the number 1 overall pick. It would have been more beneficial that year to be terrible versus drafting Kirk Snyder and Bo Flex. Chris Humphreys.
Bowflex, that's funny. That
Apparently
was
that's what Jared
my
called him.
that was my first year interning, and I remember that because why was the roster so crappy going into that year? Do you remember?
Why?
It was because
yeah,
the
yeah.
Jazz missed on signing 2 restricted free agents. One is current assistant head coach Jason Terry.
Yeah.
And the other is Corey Maggette, who knows what he's doing right now. But I do remember, and this is why
He's also an assistant.
I kind of think fondly of the Jet, Jason Terry, and this is throwback radio producing days. But we did not have the Jazz rights at the time.
Oh, really?
Going way back, we were not the Jazz station. And this happened, and there was a race to see who could get Jason Terry on the radio. And this was before teams were so safeguarded about contacting players. Does that make any sense? Like there was actually a scramble. Like, does anybody know anybody related to Jason Terry?
Yeah.
And we won. I can't remember how we did it,
Oh, that's very cool.
but we got him on the phone, which is awesome. Shout out to Jason Terry, who doesn't remember that in the slightest, but it was a big deal to me. Oh, yeah, and then some bozo in Seattle was writing that the Jazz were going to win like 7 games or something like that all year, and then they overachieved. And was it in their best interest? Probably not.
But, and you know what? To their point, it's a lot of Jazz fans who are probably my age or a little bit older. A lot of people, that's the favorite season they've ever watched.
Old Keon Clark was out there dominating. What's his name? Raul Lopez had his one season, basically, in a Jazz uniform.
Yep.
Carlos Arroyo earned himself a contract.
Yes, he did.
Andre Karolinko earned himself a max deal.
Raja Bell turned himself into a real NBA player.
So, yeah.
So,
I
credit
do
those
remember
teams,
that,
but
though.
yes, it does not help you at all. Hornets, I guess, would be the most fun team. They're by far the most fun team that are in the play-in tournament. Tonight's games, as we mentioned, Heat, Hornets, Trailblazers, Suns. Tomorrow is Magic, 76ers, and the other ones are Warriors, Clippers. It really is a who's who of the most disappointing teams in the NBA outside of the Hornets, and I guess maybe the Suns, maybe the Trailblazers, because there's just like some scrappiness. And the Suns, a lot of people thought they were going to fall to the bottom because they traded Kevin Durant. But, man, this is not a good spot to be. Play-in tournament is an ultimate list of where you don't want to be in the NBA.
Hold on. I want to see how far LaMelo's usage dropped. Oh, not as far as I would have thought.
He's been good this year. LaMelo's been good.
He's down from a league high 35.9 down to 32, which is still a high number, but that is a pretty significant drop in that number.
It is. But their big issue is, or their big positive has been, Colin Knippel's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Maybe not, but he should. And then Brandon Miller has taken a huge step forward. He's turned into a good player.
LaMelo still has the highest usage on the team.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller is at 28.
Also high.
Also high.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Number 2. Utah Mammoth try to get back on track tonight at home against the Jets.
After losing back-to-back games, the Mammoth can still clinch, according to our own Cole Bagley, our Utah Mammoth insider. Here are the scenarios for tonight's game if the Mammoth want to clinch. They can clinch the top wild card spot tonight. Remember, they're already in the playoffs. If they earn a point against the Jets, meaning just get this game to overtime, and the Canucks, who are not good, beat the Kings, or, that has to be in regulation, or Utah beats Winnipeg in any fashion, and either the Wild defeat the Ducks in regulation, or Vancouver defeats LA in any fashion. So still very heavily favored that they clinch, but I will say, you look now and the Kings are just 1 point behind them in the standings. So it does feel like they're nipping at their heels and there's only 2 games left for everybody.
Probably better for the Mammoth if they lock it up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, do
Although
that early.
with 2 games to go, to your point, yeah, they haven't played their best hockey over the last 2 games. They got to bounce back. I think last time we were talking to Cole, I asked him if they were playing their best hockey, and his answer was yes. Maybe that was Nick, one of the two.
Yeah.
And I agreed with him at the time. How things can change over a couple of games, so you got to steady the ship, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And look, that also applies for the Kings, who, like the Mammoth, are on a 5-game winning streak. Mammoth won 5 straight, including that road trip, and kind of pulled away from everybody, and now the Kings have caught up. But we do know that these are the 8 teams that have made it in the Western Conference. Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Edmonton, Anaheim, Utah, and the Kings. Everybody else has been eliminated. So those are the 8 teams that are going to be competing in the playoffs.
All right, what's next?
Number 3. The basketball transfer portal has been busy in Utah.
What, everybody's leaving BYU and people are freaking out?
Yeah, and then, I think it has surprised a lot of people. Now, BYU also did get a commit yesterday from a forward, a wing coming in from Syracuse, who's a big shooter, Tyler Betsy, but doesn't have particularly gaudy stats. I do think, obviously, the big key for BYU is that Colin Chandler committed. We did not talk about that yesterday, and I think you're hoping he makes a Richie Saunders-like jump from year 2 to year 3, because his sophomore season numbers are not particularly impressive, but he's got a lot of great tools, can shoot it, obviously a super athlete. So we'll see if he's able to make that jump.
I think the BYU basketball team this year underperformed.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question
about it.
And
I want to make it clear, though, that I'm not just talking about the tournament, because I think we get too gauged. That's how we gauge it, and that's not necessarily the entire story. And I don't think A.J. DeBonson necessarily underperformed. So that, you look at the next level, right? All right, why you had a top-end guy. Well, what was the deal? And depth was obviously an issue, and the injuries certainly did not help that. But I didn't love the way that they were constructed. I didn't love the take turns play down the stretch and just going to strict ISO. There were a lot of things about that roster, the way it was constructed, that I didn't think was it. I thought the roster was much better constructed the year before, and they had more success, and I would classify that team as an overachieving team, but they didn't have the top-end guy. So you thought, okay, combine the two with the top-end guy, and anyway, long story short, I don't think they hit 3 cherries on the slot machine as far as roster construction goes. So if some guys decide to leave, I don't think it's that big of a deal, and bring in other dudes, see if it's a better fit. They needed a wing who could shoot. Everybody needs a wing who can shoot, see where they go. Colin Chandler. Now, I think what's interesting about him is he's a home guy. He's a Utah guy.
Uh-huh.
Much easier to keep that guy, my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you believe the rumors out there, his wife wants to come home or something.
Whatever.
Life stuff that matters. He has a tie. He has incentive to stay. And I think BYU leaned too far out of that,
okay,
and too far into, let's bring in I hate the term mercenaries because it's what the sport is.
Yeah,
people take that as a negative thing, but lean toward people from the outside. And I think, and you and I have always had this discussion, the magic is finding the secret sauce.
Uh-huh.
The magic is finding the blend where you can get old and stay old and then add a top-end guy that supposedly takes you to the next level.
BYU...
I think reshuffling the deck is more than appropriate.
Yeah, and it's certainly not a cause for panic.
No. Well, they still have all the resources. They can still grab all these players they want. They got a transfer from Syracuse.
I guarantee you, Colin Chandler was not cheap.
Right.
They went out and got a guy, and they probably had to pay him very handsomely to come play at BYU.
And they'll have to pay him to stay,
suitors.
too.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to stay for free, but he has more of an incentive to stay than Rob Wright does.
Correct, and you might be able to see him through his junior year, which I do expect him to make a Richie Saunders-like leap, who, if I remember, Richie went from 9 points to 16 points, and I think if you look at Colin Chandler this year at Kentucky, he's probably right around 9 points. And he's going to have a huge role next year, and he and Bruce Branch III will probably kind of be the faces of the team. We'll see if Bruce is any good. There's no guarantee that a player coming in as a true freshman is ready to handle this level of basketball. But to your point, and I would compare it maybe to the Phoenix Suns, ironically, knowing where Kevin Young came from, but they have all this superstar talent last year with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and no formation of a team. And that's a little bit of what BYU had this year. They had superstar talent in AJ and Robert Wright and Richie Saunders, but really their strengths didn't necessarily complement each other. So now next year, if Colin Chandler comes back and you get Bruce Branch III, maybe you go and get a 7-footer. Maybe you go find some guys that actually complement one another, and this system works a lot better. And I think that can be an improvement from what we saw last season, because you're right. It's not just that you lost to a bigger Texas team in the NCAA tournament. It's that you were 10-10 in conference or whatever it was. I mean, they were pretty mediocre. I mean, by definition, mediocre. They were a 500 team.
And weren't on a great run even before Richie got hurt.
Right. So I think they can certainly be better next year, even if they are less talented. And I do expect them to be less talented next season.
I think they need to be way dirtier. They need to find the dirtiest players they can. I think that about every program, though.
All right.
You have to have at least 3 dirty players on the floor at the same time.
I don't disagree with you. I actually do think you need some bad dudes. Utah also got its first, if I believe, commit.
Call it an edge, a player with an edge. I love the,
sure.
What do they call that, superlatives for a dirty player?
Yeah. Whatever you want to do to put lipstick on the pig.
He's got a hard nose.
Yeah.
Savvy.
He's a winner.
Yeah, how has Kelly Olynyk been described throughout his career? Oh, savvy player.
The Utes got Jackson Holcomb to commit. He's the guard and a pretty big transfer coming out of, what was it, not USU, UVU. So good for Alex Jensen.
Yeah, I'll save my good for Alex Jensen when they're at the upper part of the bottom half of the league.
Yeah, win 18 games. Not in league, total. You won 10 last year.
Oh, move it up to 14.
Sure. Go in the right direction.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. Cole Bagley is going to join the show at 11:30, so we will talk more hockey coming up. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.